Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Hayley Mitchell Haugen. I'm the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight we are celebrating the publication of Kari Gunter-Seymour's collection, Women Speak, from the Women of Appalachia project. We have 20 amazing women readers here tonight, and just very excited to and honored to have this opportunity to publish them all in Women Speak. Just wonderful. Now, many of you already know Kari Gunter-Seymour, but if you don't know her, I'll let you know that Kari Gunter-Seymour is the Poet Laureate of Ohio and the author of 3 award-winning collections of poetry. She's the executive director of the Women of Appalachia Project and obviously editor of our anthology series, Women Speak. Her work has been featured in American Book Review, Poem a Day, World Literature Today, the New York Times, and so many other wonderful places. So welcome, Kari. So honored to have this opportunity to celebrate with you again, another issue of Women Speak.
Oh, thank you so much, Hayley. Thank you for being our extraordinary publisher, absolutely the best publisher ever. Thank you for hosting tonight's event. That's going above and beyond, and we really appreciate it. We're just really so grateful for the partnership with Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. I'm going to hold up the book too and let everybody have a good look. It's a beautiful book. It's huge. It's full of amazing poetry, story, song, essay, memoir. And I'm going to be putting a little link in the chat so you all can know where to purchase a copy tonight, because Hayley will be happy to pop that in the mail to you this week and get it to you ASAP. I always like to remind people it makes great gifts, especially in these hard times. So tonight, the Women of Appalachia Project launches its 16th season. Yes, I've been at this 16 years. And it's in support of women authors, poets, singers, songwriters hailing from throughout Appalachia and beyond. Those of us who've come together to raise our voices in support of our culture, our heritage, and the continued advocacy of our land and our people. But that's enough from me. You can check out all of our 2025 events and read more about the project at womenofappalachia.com. So now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you, our wonderful audience, to Women Speak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Monic Ductan. I'm going to read just one poem in the interest of saving time. It's the very first poem in the anthology, and it's called Confederate. So it says, "At the bridge's underbelly stands a woman, thin jacket shielding her from pelting sleet. A worse sight in this town I've scarcely seen. Her slouching there, broken hat brim covering parts of her matted blonde hair. Her fingers in their tattered gloves hold a sign, homeless at Christmas. She's ageless, not because she's aged well, but because I cannot place her age. I'd think her an old woman, if not for this spry gait that brings her to my car window. Ignoring my boyfriend's sigh, I dig the few dollars from the cup holder, press the bills to her brown gloved palm, which matches my own dark skin. My boyfriend stares at something I cannot see until we pull forward. The beggar woman mounts a bike, a Confederate flag on one handlebar, a MAGA flag on the other. As I let my car idle there under the bridge, the cars behind me honk like a dozen trumpets out of tune. Traffic shakes everything, the icy pavement, the very air whooshing in through the open window. A line of cars ahead of us winds through the sleet, up and up, toward the foggy mountains. Thank you.
I'm going to be reading from page 92. It's called Mother's Boyfriend, or Door Number 3. He would recreate gold nuggets by melting down jewelry from pawn shops and retirement homes. Then drizzling the molten metal into a bucket of hose-cold water, aiming always for the upturned sweep end of the broom. The splash sizzled and steamed, a trinity of matter taking form. Just east of his single-wide trailer, where roaches shared the couch with me, his mid-July workshop hunched, chill and dim, smelling dank like our 5th grade field trip to the Mark Twain cave when the tour guide turned out the lights to show us what true darkness meant, somehow reminding me of the taste of blood in my mouth. Selling those 24-carat chunks to fools at the fairs, Berry Apple Festival, Tom Sawyer days. He and I conformed to an unspoken bargain. I held my tongue to his chumps. He never touched me. They believed they were getting the real thing, a genuine gold nugget mined out west, put to sale next to rows of knockoff Bowie knives, 75-cent sunglasses, snap and pop fireworks for the kids. How could they be so gullible? These grown-ups, buying the shiny lie from a sunburned, sleeveless, stained shirt man in a black cowboy hat at a sweaty street fair. Even at 11, I knew the rare water gun I was afforded wouldn't last the day, wasn't quality. The Barkers' giant prizes were poorly made, and the grab bags for $1 would never open to the treasure I was hoping for. The next one, thank you. Yeah, don't buy gold nuggets at the fair. Don't do it. The next one is called Dandelion Shades, and it's shorter, with apologies to Yeats. I can't bear those ghosts on my neighbor's front lawn. My own yard sleeps dreamless, abandoned of ethereal wonders. In daylight, those buttery chums heard the bright birthright of interlopers everywhere. But motionless now, in dim street lamp glow, they whisper of loneliness, all suburbia colored. I almost forget what they used to be, and see only their vestiges, hollowed orbs, odes to emptiness, a gazeless crystal ball, heartless star. This fearful, fragile existence, clinging to their second coming. Soon those tender centers will not hold. One easy breeze, and they drift away. Bodiless, night-floating shards of used-to-be light. They make me tiptoe. I hold my breath to write.
Okay. Howdy, can y'all hear me? Okay. Yeah, cool. Sorry. My name is Alexis Nichols. I'm from Mercer County, Kentucky. And I go to school at Berea College. So thank y'all for letting me read today. I'm reading a piece called Cornishville. It's on page 33. So hope you enjoy. Cornishville. Cornishville is a town that used to be. Before I knew it, there used to be a post office, a firehouse, and a gas station. There used to be big black tobacco barns, hardy Duroc hogs flopping around in mud holes, and an old mill that ran the whole town on the rush of the Chaplain River. There used to be church ladies batting away at mosquitoes from their church doors, young boys casting their lines off the bridge over the waterfall, and cakewalks in the fellowship hall. There used to be little children bounding towards each other while playing Red Rover, panting in the sweltering heat of the valley like the wandering cemetery dog they pet on. Cornishville used to be alive, no matter how little there was. I know it because I was alive there for a while. Cornishville used to be a whole lot of things, but it isn't much of anything now. People keep calling it a ghost town, nothing but druggies and fighting people and old people who can't move on. Truth be told, I reckon most people born there left in a way they can't ever come back from, and the only time they want to anyhow would be to lay a bouquet of plastic flowers on a headstone or spread sod over a grave. Even then, the drive down there will make their baby's car sick, and that's a good enough excuse as any to stay away. People keep calling it a ghost town, and I keep wanting to haul off and hit 'em. So I guess that makes me one of them old biddies who can't move on. And I reckon my family are them druggies and fighting people, no matter how hard they work to clean up our name. But I remember Cornishville and the rich crumbles of potato candy, the waxy pears in my Christmas stocking, and the static hiss of sparklers. I remember it in the red flocking of the church pews and the sycamores that swayed over the river. I remember it in the people who laughed because they didn't have to worry so long as Jesus was watching. Thank you, that's all.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Marie Minney. I'm from West Virginia and currently live in Northeast Ohio. And the title of my poem in the anthology is Rainbow Blonde. Moonbows shed great drops of bloody brown tears over Appalachia. Somber winds spread Judas kisses across barren fields of tomorrow. Blind tears blink SOS. Mountains bow their heads in deep, dark sorrow. Picking daisies off the PTSD of death, 8 shots fired by inexplicable rage at the sight of 2 women engaged in an act of love. Near Dead Woman Hollow, Rebecca White dead from her wounds. 8 years later, park rangers stumbled across the bodies of Julianne Williams and Lolly Winans in the Shenandoah National Park, wrists bound, throats slit by person or persons unknown. Lolly's golden retriever, the only witness. Hell must be empty. All the devils are here. Appalachian horoscopes, a jumble of nonsensical words. Grieving ghosts wallow in the shadows. Please don't die until I get there. No more running into the woods, coming out just another tortured poet, looking to save her soul, searching for answers without knowing what the questions are, choosing suicide over surrender, another razor slice on the wrist. I can't wait any longer for the rapture to save us, for Santa to be nailed to the cross, drifting into the storm, coming out a rainbow blonde. And that ain't no joke. Clothed in a suit of rusty armor, carrying a flaming sword of light, willing to join in the fight, standing with my foot on the throat of fear. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Elaine Palencia from Moorhead, Kentucky and Cookeville, Tennessee. I live in Champaign, Illinois now. Going to read 2 poems. The first one is on page 202. Mama's Bedroom. Under her cherry red satin feather comforter, Mama and I snuggle, napping away the long afternoon. Windows glow white with winter cloud light. Furnace heat stirs dust bunnies under the bed. The dressing table is a Sinbad bazaar of screw-on earrings, face powder, coins, playing cards, April violets perfume, almond cherry hand lotion. In her closet, a velvet evening coat and a round hat box of love letters, whispering, single, elsewhere, before. She sings me to sleep. Go tell Aunt Rhody, go tell Aunt Rhody, go tell Aunt Rhody. The old gray goose is dead. And my other poem is on page 204, and it's called Beneath. Rippling like a lumpy chiffon curtain, the juvenile snailfish, genus Pseudoliparis, deepest swimming fish ever caught on camera, glides 5 miles down across Blackwater night in a trench off Japan, a look of mild surprise teasing its snub-nosed mug, like deep-buried family secrets that never thought they would be discovered in dusty county archives, handwritten records tucked into lost Bibles, abandoned graveyards, census records from rural Idaho where none of us ever lived, the extra wife and daughter an uncle never mentioned, a great uncle's stay in the state asylum, an extra child living on the grandparents' farm, the infant brother I never knew, all thrown off the dock of the past in tubs of concrete. Now they are stroking for the surface against the hydrostatic pressure of family denial. Smiling, ready for their close-up, they whisper, "Hi there. Look down. There are more of us." Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacinda Townsend. I am from Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I'm going to read an excerpt from my novel Trigger Warning, which comes out this September. And it is so nice to be with all of y'all, even if only in cyberspace. So I'm glad to see everybody. Ruth said she'd be waiting for him in the parking lot, and she was, sitting on the trunk of her Tesla, oblivious to his arrival. Myron got out of his car and studied the back of her head, the tight, neat French braid she'd put there. Her hair was more carroty even than Enix's. When he'd first met Ruth, Myron had looked for the statistically likely lone brown strand per 50 and found none. Ruth had never been able to tolerate sunlight, which had been a joke among their white friends in college. There had been Ruth, smearing SPF 50, frying sombreros at beaches. After college, when they were first living together and then married, she locked the front door in broad daylight. She set the emergency brake in her car, even when she was just parking in the driveway. All of it, all of Ruth's secret and unpredictable foci, had grated on Myron during their marriage. Now, with some distance, he saw that she hadn't meant him any harm. Fever was just her way. If it could be said that everyone on Earth was secretly fighting a battle inside, Ruth was fighting 5,000. She couldn't be helped, and it had taken him all these years to realize. He saw her from behind, and then as he approached from the side, saw she had her $1,000 cannon strapped across her chest. He saw her as she saw him, a man now unneeded, a prong who no longer fit any outlet in her soul. She wore a sharp, dark lipstick that he'd never seen, and a walnut suede skirt that matched the darker glaze she'd put over her blaze of hair. She looked down and fiddled with her camera's telegraphic lens, her elbows bowed out from her body as wings from a delicate moth. He'd never wanted her as badly when they were married as he wanted her now. He got closer, tapped her on the shoulder. "Hey," he said. She didn't rise. "Annie has homework this weekend," she said wearily. He felt his shoulders hunching into the childhood version of himself, which was the model he most hated. He'd been a cowed, rotten boy who'd watched an LDS missionary singe the fur off a cat's paws repeatedly and said nothing. The cat had ignored the flame initially, and then, as his fur thinned, yelped in pain, and still, Myron had simply stood next to his own bicycle and watched. Had he grown apart from that version of himself, he wondered, or had the self simply grown into him, inner rings of a tree? He couldn't now say. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Jennifer Schomburg Kanke, and I'm originally from Ohio, but I'm coming to you tonight from North Florida. My first poem is called Making Do. We begged Granny for Taco Bell, which seemed to us a simple request. Even our parents, as skint as they were, bought it for us. It was a summer sometime in the 80s, and we were staying with her in a mill town without a mill, not one still open at least. with pill mills unthought of, still 15 years down the road. Well, now, I don't know what that is. We were horrified, in the same way we'd been when she told us the hill next door where we played freeze tag and dodgeball had been the county dump when our father was young. That the barbecue out back had been made with bricks he'd hauled from it one by one, all by himself with his little red wagon. She looked up Taco Bell in the yellow pages, even though she'd have to ask one of my aunts to drive us there. Nothing was listed. At least, that's what she told us. Scioto County didn't always have the things bigger cities had, like how when my father had his first breakdown, she'd eventually taken him to a hospital in Huntington after trying to fix him herself. When he had his second and his third, there was no money for that sort of thing. So they made do with something more local, where they gave him shock treatments and Thorazine until he pretended to be well just to get the hell out of there. I try not to think too much about how his life would have been different in a big city with a big wallet, because different isn't always better, but it isn't always worse either. Like when Granny put taco shells on her grocery list, and that weekend we talked her through how to make tacos because it wasn't just Taco Bell she'd never heard of. It all came out okay. A spice was missing, but we were just kids and not quite sure what it was or what to do about it. My second poem is Labor Day Raft Race, 1985. The boys are on the river, I am on the shore. They cut fine figures on homemade rafts. Old lawn chairs roped to inner tubes, rough logs done up like Huckleberry Finn, and yes, a floating shower stall that's rigged to pull Scioto River water muddy and full of dreams from below to rain down on their heads. My cousins, oh, how they can feel it. This is their year. The fog is thick with summer's end and cups of percolated coffee, so that they don't see the rich kids, or rich by their standards, putting in 2 kayaks, price tags still on them, held with jute and superglue to form a single craft. The whole way down, they'll think there's still a chance. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristi Stevens Walker. I'm from West Virginia, and I'm coming to you tonight from Nashville, Tennessee. My poem is called Nesting. Nesting. When your wife died, you asked me to proofread her obituary, and I read it like a biblical scholar exegeting a sacred text. I smiled when you wrote that she could flatfoot a hole through the floor. After that, you began feeding mourning doves. All that winter, you listened for their call, tending them with care. I tried to do the same for you. Mourning doves are seasonally monogamous, usually beginning courtship rituals in the winter and waiting for spring to begin work on a nest. Life is short and love is big, you said to me, in the wee hours of that chilly March equinox under cover of moon song and ambient light. We cooed until the sun peaked over Paris Mountain. I did not yet know the lengths I would go to for a nest I couldn't feather. Thank you.
I'm Mary Lucille DeBerry from Morgantown, West Virginia, and the poem I'm reading is A Peek at Progressive Parenting. Epigraph. A 1939 Woman's Home Companion cover featured a stylish mother with a darling toddler with a harness on. From Slate Parenting Newsletter. The poem. On a trip to Florida, February 1941, my mother grasped tightly my long leather leash, especially when the organ grinder released his monkey Bologna, dressed in navy, red, and gold, wearing a bellboy's cap, to roam the crowd, to search for pennies, to reach into my pocket. The tan brown of my baby harness for me meant exploring out of doors, or digging in sand near an ocean, or riding on a noisy streetcar where the conductor gave me chewing gum. Back home in West Virginia, my mother used the harness only once when she was canning peaches, and I was howling, banging against the side of the Dutch door, wanting outside freedom. This time, my mother fastened the leash securely to a redbud tree. Old Mr. Swadley, though, hobbled by, saw me, happy in sunshine, stripped down to my diaper. My mother, in the kitchen with the upper part of the Dutch door open, heard him grieve. What kind of woman would do this to you? Would put you on a leash? As soon as Mr. Swadley moved onward, she maneuvered me back inside. I wailed at my uprooting. My baby harness, though, was banished forever. Now it languishes in a drawer. Thank you.
I'm Marjorie Maddox. I'm originally from Ohio, probably not too far from where Jen was raised. And I live now in north central Pennsylvania. And I'm going to read one short poem on page 49 called Mountain Fence. Line after line after line, what does fence think it can contain? Not parallel trees, not curved mountain, not circumference of sky, clouds, dimensions, not intersection of blue, gray, black, brown, not morning sun rising above every calculated boundary of man. And I'll just put in a plug. I have 2 brand new books out. You probably can't see it. I'll put it in the links. Small Earthly Space, which focuses on the environment, and Mountain Fence is in here now. And the book Seeing Things, which has to do with the relationships of mother-daughters and the blurry line between truth and lie in society these days. So thank you.
I'm E.J. Wade, and I'm reading from Oak Park, Illinois. The name of my poem is called Goldenrod. Sister put a mirror in front of her face, and she didn't like what she saw. So she took baby girl's finger paints and colored her hair goldenrod. She outlined her eyes to match those of the Egyptian queen on the postcard her friend sent her while on vacation. Tracing the shape of her mouth, she drew a thin red line within the contour of her lips, camouflaging the royal thickness bequeathed by her ancestors. With the skill of a painter, she sketched and fashioned a nose keen and narrow, the kind that Greek sculptors adored. Turning her head from side to side, she smiled at the face in the mirror, pleased with what she had created. Breaking open the pink piggy bank, she gathered the loose change and stacked the copper coins along the windowsill. Tallying the coins over and over until her eyes watered, she gathered them up as an offering to the man with the antique Polaroid. Sister put a mirror in front of her face and wetted her lips before smiling for the camera. My first book, co-authored with Karen Spears Zacharias, The Devil's Pulpit and Other Mostly True Scottish Misadventures, is out in March on the 4th, and I put it in the link, and thank you so much.
Hello, excuse me. I'm Karen Salyer McElmurray, and I'm originally from Hager Hill, Kentucky, coming to you tonight from Catonsville in Maryland. I'm reading All the Mothers, which is on page 206 of the anthology. It's a fragmented essay, and the individual parts all have titles. And I'll pause a little bit after each section. This is a substantially shortened version of the essay. Holy Mother, sometimes when it rained at night, I dreamed a holy woman came and sat on the edge of my bed. She smelled like frankincense, and something else I could not yet name, a woman scent, fierce and lonely. Granny. Skinny knife blade, ruby red beat, scrub brush, linoleum floor. Steady beat of a fork and egg white and meringue that tasted so sweet. Fingers making 3 neat parts of a braid. A book's page turning. Read me a story, I said, and she did. Lineage. By the time I was born, my mother was in Kansas with my father in the Air Force. My father tells it this way. As she was giving birth, her voice carried down the hospital corridor. I want my mother, she called, her words taking flight. Pain had wings that traveled the miles back to Kentucky, found the hands that knew how to comfort. Birthday. Her hard-soled slippers march past me in the room where I sit, waiting. I know there will be cake. I know there will be mother love. Just keep right on knowing, she says. She slams the door to the bathroom in the hall, and I hear the water running. Son, I surrendered at birth. In the dream, my son won't leave my body. He makes himself small inside me and waits and waits. In the waiting room, my father kneels to pray. 100 miles away, my mother hasn't seen me in 5 years. She never prays. I dream of hands, fists closing tight. My son floats out of my body. Afterbirth trails between us until he disappears. Friends who have mothered me. Vicky, her poems, her 12-string guitar. Carlisle with a house in the woods. Wendy, who tells me my voice needs to blossom, a wicked and terrible bloom. Marcella, who draws tarot cards and sends me my fortunes. Lorraine, who refused to try to fix my broken heart. Pearlie. Lost in an Alzheimer's dream, my mother's arms were stiff and never touched me except for a pat, pat, pat. Mountains. In my mother's nursing home, a blind 110-year-old woman named Goldie used to look out of the tables in the dining room and say, Lord of mercy, what they done to them mountaintops. And I know she was right. I'm 60, and I ride the highways to Kentucky whenever I can. As I drive, I see the sawed-off tops of mountains. Gibson. When I'm 90, I hope I'll remember Sunday mornings at the church house. I hope I will still imagine the roads Mary Ruth might have wanted once. I'll remember how words slid out of her O of a mouth and traveled down the aisle, a bomb. I hope I will remember how her songs mothered me on all the roads I took, away and away. Thank you. And I hope, just put in a plug for my book that came out in September. Look for it from University Press of Kentucky, Essays. I could name God in 12 ways.
My name is Connie Green. I am coming to you from Loudoun County, Tennessee, which is very close to Knoxville and Oak Ridge. Karen, that was beautiful. Thank you for your reading. I'm going to read 2 short poems. One is a gardening poem and one is a poem about poetry. Holy Weeds. It satisfies my soul the way a root lets go in moist soil, the way a weed, lamb's quarter, smartweed, chickweed, comes up whole in my hand, stem intact, a map of roots dangling beyond my wrist, fresh earth aroma and the scent of green, the incense I inhale. The way weeding sanctifies a row of beans, makes perfect the corn stalks marching through the garden. By morning, the first verdant tips, unrepentant sinners. populate the cathedral, dispute the ritual of row and pathway, the holy order labor imposed. Forgiveness, no part of this liturgy, only more hours on my knees, obeisance to the prolificate spirit that rules all life. And the second poem, Where Poetry Comes From. At the edge of a turquoise sea is a cave filled with hieroglyphics and the secret faces of bats. And in the sea are dolphins with minds beyond the comprehension of humans. And far out in the sea are whales. All night, the whales rise with their magnificent blowholes, and they call out to the stars and to the planets lined in the summer sky like the lines of a sonnet. And all of language rests where whale and dolphin spend their innumerable days, and where bats wait for dark and the cave breathes its cool air. I will plug in for my next collection that is coming out, which is titled Nameless as the Minnows, and it will be out from Madville Publishing very soon. And thank you for allowing me to read.
Winter voices unfinished work with I take it back cold snaps and rainy day tantrums, while a chorus cries, you've had long enough. Every time I hear the river rushing their way, pounding like a restless heart, alongside you, I would swim away till downstream we were called. In springtime in Kentucky, my long lost friend, where the sun shines on longer days. Sometimes at night I hear him calling, say a prayer for my soul to keep. Let the mountains sway me to sleep. Well, my bark is as tough as a hickory tree, and all cuts they say will heal. Carved deep with the blade of a selfish fate, laid open a fallow field. In springtime in Kentucky, my long lost friend, where the sun shines on longer days. Sometimes at night I hear him calling, say a prayer for my soul to keep. Let the mountains sway me to sleep. Winter's cruel and callous in cold-hearted ways. Don't allow no courage. Hard as the ground with our sound, our love will never fade. Springtime in Kentucky, my long lost friend, where the sun shines on longer days. Sometimes at night I hear them calling. Say a prayer for my soul to keep. Let the mountains sway me to sleep. Springtime in Kentucky, my long lost friend, where the sun shines on longer days. Sometimes I hear him calling and say a prayer for myself to keep. Let the mountains sway me sleep.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sara Pisak. I am from Sugarloaf, Pennsylvania. I am going to be reading a piece that is a companion piece to a piece that I published in the collection last year. This piece is called Patchtown Days, and it is dedicated to my great-grandmother, Christina Matz. The soil loves us and loves us not. We are flowers yanked from their native fields and repotted. With stiff and tired hands, I sit under fresh stars and new stripes, sewing stitches green to white, white to red, our heritage striped seams of the flagpole torn from each other like petals plucked from the flowers by the spring winds. We are tomatoes uprooted from the vines, twisting and weaving their timelines across the garden. Dropping their fruit into the sauce I stir upon the stove. Below the soil, their sprouted roots of latitude and longitude try to grow deep enough to lasso you from the anthracite cave, before the hard coal hardens your lungs, before chiseled fissures in coal invade your lungs' crevices, and I rush the kids from the last church pew to your bedside, stamping footprints in damp soil every Sunday, single file down the road like ducklings following their mother, as quickly as you followed canaries to choke on fresh air, before your last exhale burns out and we never reap what we sowed. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pauletta Hansel, and I'm zooming in from Cincinnati, originally from southeastern Kentucky. I have 3 short poems in the anthology, and I'm going to read 2 of them. The first one is called Genealogy. I come from women, their history erased, a relentless river press of time, stories are stones left behind, a whisper becomes history, sister, daughter, mother, cousin, aunt, a wild entanglement, rough rock, drowned roots, a branch-strewn bank, my words call home. And the second poem is, these are actually part of a longer series of manuscript that I think I'm finished with, that are about my maternal line. And this one is to my grandmother, Etta Mullins Lewis, 1908 to 1993. And I said that first because I'm going to sing the title. I'm not in their town to stay, said a lady old and gray. I can't hear that song without picturing my granny, her hair roped up in its ashy bun, a wad of tissue pulled from her cracked vinyl purse, spilling quarters and dimes. Yes, warden, I'm just here to get my baby out of jail. Maybe Uncle Willie, his baby round cheeks and wispy hint of mustache, or Ben, his flint-eyed older brother, in the pen. Again. Around my mother's maple table, the sisters sit, coffee's percolating hum, and I am, where? Invisible, waiting as bright coins of story fall through the cracks to me. This time, a gun. The sisters shake their black coiffed heads and pat my granny's wrinkled hand.
Hi, my name is Lisa Kwong. I'm originally from Virginia, coming to you from Bloomington, Indiana. I'm going to be reading an abbreviated version of The Importance of Anniversaries. In 1999, I was preparing to graduate high school in Radford, Virginia, while Nginging, my paternal grandmother, continued to worsen after surviving 2 strokes. She was bedridden, continued to lose weight, and lost control of her bodily functions. I felt afraid, not wanting to visit her. Her favorite grandchild had always been H, my younger sister. Nging had raised her since she was a baby. In return, H never wavered in her love for Nging. She gave Nging her insulin shots and did not recoil when she soiled herself. In fact, I remember H glaring and chastising me for being grossed out. Through clenched teeth, she said something like, "It shouldn't matter. She's still Nginging. She still needs us." I prayed for Nginging to not die before I graduated high school. After the first stroke, which took away her ability to speak, I still talked to her wide open eyes and closed mouth smile while she sat still on the couch with her walker and me in front of her. I remember telling her about God's salvation because I grew up in a Baptist church and had learned you needed to beg God for forgiveness and then be saved. I held her hands and she nodded, her brain still alive in her damaged body. I kept praying Nginging would believe and go to heaven. And I'm gonna skip ahead to August when I've started college. Besides an 8 a.m. pre-calc class, my first 2 weeks at Appalachian State were going well. On Friday of the second week, I decided to stop by Belk Library and check my email since back then we still had dial-up internet in the dorms. I logged into Hotmail and this 2-line message had arrived from H. "Come home, grandmother died last night." I don't remember everything my family did to prepare for the funeral, but one moment stands out. Before the viewing, Mom was fretting about what to wear, so Sister was helping her by rifling through dresses in her closet. Meanwhile, not knowing any better, I kept repeating, "It doesn't matter." Sister shut me up by saying, "Lisa, this is not your grandmother, not some teacher, so it does matter." I understand now why it mattered what we wore to Nging's funeral and how I was being insensitive, but the teacher part of Sister's comment was also insensitive. 2 of my science teachers died while I was in high school. This was the first time my family had buried one of our own in the US, so you could say that some of my relatives didn't know the American norms for mourning. For example, people are supposed to wait in line to see the casket during the viewing, but my extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, crowded all at once around Nging's embalmed body and made-up face, sobbing and shouting with their grief in Toisanese, my family's hometown dialect. We are a Chinese American family, so we wanted to maintain Chinese mourning traditions, but also follow American protocol. White is the color of mourning in China. Americans wear black. We compromised by wearing white tops and black pants or skirts. There are some customs we did that I still need to learn the significance of. Before we went to the gravesite, we tied white towels around our arms. After Nging's coffin was lowered into the ground, we were each given small green leaves, told to air wipe our eyes with these leaves, and then turn and walk away from our burial spot without looking back. 25 years later, I still miss Nging and feel her presence every time I read the poems I've written about her. When I think about how far I've come in fashion, I think of Nging, the seamstress, who made matching blue and purple floral dresses and red and black paint-splattered white pajama pants for me and H. I still regret avoiding Nging when she was dying, but I've tried to forgive myself. I am still trying. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My name is Sheila Carter-Jones, and I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm going to be reading from the anthology, Senior Tennis Shorts and Other Incongruous Ideas of Servitude. 1. Technique. The instructor cheers, "Yay!" You got it. 2, happy feet. Slap, 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 slap against the surface. If she could have only run just a slap faster and had only kept her eye on the ball, she might have had a slight chance of hitting it. But even if she did, the ball probably wouldn't have gone over the net, like always. 3, grave fact number 1. After the first 20 minutes, the ball is a neon streak. Tired muscles make a sloppy game, and the best become lousy, the lousy become lousier. 4, are you smarter than a tennis ball? Green fuzz, flash of neon. Pat prowls, bounces on tiptoes like a wind-up toy gone mad. The ball lands inbounds. Pat attacks. Swoosh, misses by 2 feet. Screams, dumb ball. 5, a case of name-calling before partner matching for the game. Sheila Brown, right? This is the millionth time she's asked, and it's the millionth time I've told her, no, it's Jones, Jones, Jones. Next time she asks, Sheila Brown, right? I say, I think it's my skin that's throwing you off. She remembers Jones the next time, and the time after that, and the time after that. Now she plays on court 3 with 3 other white ladies and no chance of missing the ball. 7, Good Friday tennis. Sally serves the homemade chocolate matzo treat, breaks off pieces, passes them out to all the seniors, says like a prayer to each of us, you don't have to eat it. I feel absolved. 8, at Love, Love. Walter forgets he's holding the unleavened bread. On his serve, the treat goes up with the ball. Sally's chocolate matzo smashes into the net and crumbles. Walter says, oops, is that my point or yours? 9, double entendre. I could have been coming to the tennis court for 100 years. Still, when the big man arrives for the first time, retired, gray-haired, yet bulk of muscle, he flexes lean privilege. Now odd player out. From the sideline, I watch him serve the ball up, raises his racket like a champ, and wham! The ball is a bullet. Optic yellow, perfectly round missile whistling down the baseline, a straight shot, hard, burning with intent to gain a leg up. The new guy's follow-through is as natural a rhythm as his gendered skin. He gets what he wants, easy, doesn't sweat. He's so adept. Besides, who can hit a megaton bomb of ball coming at you faster than you can see it, even when wearing 2 pairs of glasses, one goggled over the other like Elliot with cataracts, or like me with 20/20 normal acuity. 10, match point. We have to have a personal talk, I tell the senior instructor. Why was the new guy put in before me when I've been coming to the courts for nearly 100 years, so to speak? 11, serving up the ad in attitude. I know what kind of player he is, the senior instructor says. He's a cutthroat, a league player. I knew Kelly could handle him. She's probably the best player here. And he doesn't care. I've seen him go after his own wife. I didn't want you to get hurt. I didn't know if you would be able to take it. I wanted to see if he could play nice. This is different than league playing. I think of safety first. That's my main thing. I've got $9 million of insurance. Somebody gets hurt, decides to sue, I'm covered. It had nothing to do with race. He's the kind won't shake your hand after a match. My father said, if your opponent doesn't shake, punch him. I never punched anybody, though. You know what I mean? Oh, don't write a poem about me and make me a bad guy. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tess Lloyd, and I live in Jonesboro, Tennessee. Originally, I am from North Carolina, and I am going to read a piece called Give Thanks for Sagging Barbed Wire, 1945. When the ride you hitched in Spruce Pine drops you at the lane to your father's farm, you see what 3 years at the front made you forget. Barbed wire sagging between canted fence posts, ash leaves shaking like starlings, Weeds the truck tires don't erase from the middle of the dirt lane pointing to the house that is invisible from here, except for the attic gable, where at 14 you moved your bed to get away from your kid brother, even though sleeping beneath the metal roof was hotter than inside that tank at Oran in 42. But forgetting, like remembering, is immaterial. And so you adjust your garrison cap and walk along the weedy strip through dew that soaks your dress khakis to the knees. Not that it matters now. And rounding the hill where your father pastured bull calves that, when they escaped, trampled tobacco. And mules that swish their scrawny tails against the flies. You come upon the house, gray weatherboard, and the yard still smelling of the fatback your mother fried for breakfast this morning. Your mother, who now waits on the porch with her hands folded across her stomach, her smile fading into the usual resignation as you drop your duffel bag in the dirt and keep walking, past the barn where your father is tinkering with another tobacco-setting contraption, along the edge of the field where your brother is plowing red clay. So steep, a tractor will flip before you know it, like with old man Bowley-Jack on the North Toe, whom they didn't find for hours. Although pinned beneath 3 tons of metal, it's always too late, like that damn death trap at Anzio. But do not call, remember Anzio, remember old man Bowley-Jack, lest you remind gravity to grow greedy. Instead, you walk on through the hayfield your father never limed, and so he baled broom sedge, across the saddle where you walloped your brother with a hickory limb for something you don't remember, and he never snitched, until on the far side of Baldy, you reached the cedars you helped your father set out when he bought the farm because he planned to cut fence posts someday and never did. And where today you lean against a ragged trunk, light a lucky, give thanks for sagging barbed wire, the smell of cedar, buzzard soaring over Ripshin Ridge. Thank you.
I want to mention that Tess has the last poems in the book, and you can see why. They're just so wonderful and vivid and full of so much life. I'd like to end with one of my poems only because I like to end with a little bit of resilience, and I think this one does that. This week, the drought. On this land where creek beds splinter and crack, squirrels are skeletons lugging fur. The deer pale as papery birch. Hornets hover, plummet, bounce off hard ground. Birds kilter like ashes. I walk out into another scalding dawn, where overnight a mast of acorns, freed from shriveled stalks, scattered themselves like manna, far as the eye can see. Squirrel and deer stand side by side, heads bowed, relishing. Birds balance branches, salivate the chance of leftover crumbs. A water bucket in hand, I suffer myself to hope. Thank you all so much for this marvelous, marvelous evening. Thank you to our performers. A big hand for all of our performers. Everybody buy a copy of Women Speak. Keep this project going. And of course, I want to thank so very much Hayley Haugen Mitchell from Sheila-Na-Gig and all of you in our audience for being with us tonight, everybody. Until we meet again, Hayley?
And finally, just one more time, we've been listening to the amazing contributors to Kari Gunter-Seymour's Women Speak Anthology, a project of the Women of Appalachia Project. And you can find Women Speak, this edition, Volume 10, and a few others, and all of our other collections from Sheila-Na-Gig edition at www.sheila-na-gigblog.com. Hope that you'll check us out. Thank you, everybody, for being here.